Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of our podcast, where we break down English learning in a fun and practical way. Today, we're tackling a topic that many learners struggle with: grammar.
That's right. So many people think that perfect grammar is the key to speaking fluent English. But is that really true? Well, today, we're here to tell you why grammar isn't everything when it comes to learning English.
Don't get us wrong, grammar is important, but focusing too much on it can actually slow you down. What really matters is communication, confidence, and understanding how the language is used in real life.
Exactly. You might have perfect grammar, but if you hesitate too much while speaking or feel too afraid of making mistakes, it won't help your fluency. So, let's talk about what really matters when learning English.
One of the biggest myths in language learning is that you must master every grammar rule before you can speak fluently. But think about how native speakers talk. Do they always follow perfect grammar? Not really. They make mistakes, use slang, and sometimes even break grammar rules intentionally.
That's a great point. Just listen to conversations in movies, TV shows, or even casual chats in real life. You'll hear incomplete sentences, contractions, and phrases that wouldn't always pass a grammar test. But does it stop people from understanding each other? No.
Exactly. The goal of language isn't perfection, it's communication. Imagine you're traveling and you need to ask for directions. If you say, "Where is station?" instead of "Where is the station?" will people understand you? Of course.
Right. And that's why focusing too much on grammar can sometimes hold you back. Instead of worrying about whether your sentence structure is perfect, you should focus on making yourself understood. The more you practice speaking, the more natural your grammar will become over time.
Another thing that often happens is analysis paralysis. Have you ever had a moment where you wanted to say something, but you stopped yourself because you weren't sure if it was grammatically correct?
Oh, definitely. And that's frustrating, isn't it? You get stuck thinking about verb tenses or prepositions instead of just saying what you mean. Meanwhile, the conversation moves on, and you've lost your chance to speak.
That's why we always encourage learners to embrace mistakes. Making errors is part of the learning process. In fact, some of the best English speakers I know didn't start with perfect grammar, they just practiced a lot and weren't afraid to speak. That's why listening and speaking is so important. The more you expose yourself to English through conversations, podcasts, and real-life interactions, the more naturally your brain picks up patterns without needing to memorize complex grammar rules.
And let's not forget about vocabulary and pronunciation. Sometimes, having a good range of words and knowing how to say them naturally is more useful than getting every grammar rule right. A simple sentence with the right words and clear pronunciation is often more effective than a grammatically perfect but overly complicated sentence.
Absolutely, there's no need to stress over grammar every time you speak. Focus on being clear, confident, and natural, and the grammar will come with time and practice.
And another thing, have you noticed how kids learn their first language? They don't sit down with grammar books or memorize tenses. They just listen, repeat, and learn through interaction.
Yes, and that's why immersion is so powerful. If you surround yourself with English by watching movies, listening to podcasts, or talking to native speakers, you'll naturally pick up grammar without realizing it.
Exactly. Instead of memorizing lists of grammar rules, spend more time actually using the language. Speak with friends, join online discussions, or even talk to yourself in English.
That last one is a great tip. Talking to yourself might sound silly, but it really helps. You can describe what you're doing, think out loud, or even practice conversations you might have in real life.
And don't worry if you make mistakes. The key is to keep speaking and listening. Over time, your brain will start to recognize what sounds natural, just like how native speakers develop their instinct for grammar.
Plus, when you focus too much on grammar, it can make English feel like a set of rules to follow rather than a tool for communication. And that's not how language works in real life.
Right. Language is about expressing yourself, making connections, and understanding others. If you're too worried about making mistakes, you might miss out on valuable conversations and experiences.
So, if you're learning English and feel stuck because of grammar, take a step back. Focus on using the language, listening to real conversations, and speaking as much as possible. The rest will come naturally.
And another great way to build confidence is by mimicking native speakers. Listen to how they phrase things, their tone, their rhythm. Then, try to copy it.
Yes, shadowing is a fantastic technique. You listen to a sentence and repeat it immediately, trying to match the pronunciation and flow. It trains your brain to think in English without overanalyzing grammar.
Absolutely. And don't forget about idioms and natural expressions. Native speakers rarely speak in textbook English. Learning common phrases will make you sound more natural and help you understand conversations better.
Exactly. Instead of saying, "I am very tired," you could say, "I'm exhausted." Or instead of, "It is raining a lot," you say, "It's pouring." These small changes make a huge difference.
And they help you sound more fluent without worrying about complex grammar rules. Learning set phrases is a shortcut to speaking more naturally.
Another thing, sometimes people hesitate to speak because they feel like they need to translate from their native language first. That slows you down.
Right. Thinking directly in English is a game changer. It takes practice, but the more you immerse yourself, the easier it becomes.
And the best way to do that, surround yourself with English music, books, TV shows, even changing your phone's language to English.
Yes. The more you expose yourself to the language, the less you'll rely on translations, and the more natural it will feel.
And another thing, don't be afraid to make mistakes. A lot of learners hold back because they're worried about saying something wrong. But mistakes are part of the learning process.
Exactly. If you never make mistakes, you're probably not challenging yourself enough. Native speakers will understand what you mean, even if it's not perfect.
Right. And the more you speak, the more confident you become. It's all about getting comfortable using the language in real situations.
Speaking of real situations, one great way to practice is by joining language exchange groups. You meet people who are also learning, and you can help each other.
That's a great idea. There are also apps that connect you with native speakers for conversation practice. Even if you don't have someone to talk to in person, you can still get plenty of speaking practice.
Yes. And one simple trick if you don't have a conversation partner, just talk to yourself. Describe what you're doing, narrate your day, or practice responses to common questions.
That's a great habit to develop. The more you use English, the more natural it becomes. It's not about being perfect, it's about being understood.
Exactly. Fluency isn't about knowing every word, it's about expressing yourself confidently with the words you do know.
And you know what else helps? Thinking in English. If you always translate from your native language, it slows you down.
Absolutely. Thinking directly in English makes it easier to respond naturally in conversations, even if you start with simple thoughts like, "I need to buy milk," or "What time is it?" It makes a big difference.
Yeah, and another thing, listen to English as much as possible. Even when you're not actively studying, surround yourself with the language.
That's true. Podcasts, music, audiobooks, even TV shows, they help your brain get used to the rhythm and sounds of English.
Exactly. And don't just listen, passively repeat phrases, mimic accents, and try to copy the way native speakers talk.
That's a good one. Shadowing is a great technique where you listen to a sentence and repeat it immediately, copying the pronunciation and intonation. It really improves your speaking skills.
Yeah, and the more you do that, the more natural your speech will become. It's all about practice, practice, practice.
And patience. Learning a language is a journey, not a race. The important thing is to enjoy the process and keep going.
Exactly. Learning a language is all about consistency. Even just 10 or 15 minutes a day can make a huge difference over time.
Right. And don't be afraid to make mistakes. A lot of people hesitate to speak because they're scared of saying something wrong. But honestly, mistakes are part of learning.
Absolutely. Think about how children learn their first language. They make tons of mistakes, but they don't care. They just keep talking, and eventually they get better.
That's the mindset we should have. Just keep going, keep speaking, and don't let fear hold you back.
And if you ever feel stuck, try talking to yourself in English. It might feel weird at first, but it helps build confidence.
Yeah, you can describe what you're doing. Like, "I'm making a cup of tea. I need to finish my work." It's a simple way to practice daily.
And if you can, find a speaking partner. Practicing with real people makes a huge difference. It forces you to think on your feet.
Exactly. And there are so many ways to do that now: language exchange apps, online communities, or even joining an English club.
The key is exposure. The more you use English, the more natural it becomes. Keep practicing, and you'll see progress.
And another great way to improve is by shadowing. You listen to native speakers and repeat what they say, mimicking their pronunciation and intonation.
Oh, I love that method. It's like training your mouth and brain to get used to the rhythm of the language. Plus, it helps with pronunciation without needing a teacher.
Exactly. You can do this with podcasts, TV shows, or even YouTube videos. Just pick something that interests you so you stay engaged.
And speaking of TV shows, watching with subtitles in English can be super helpful. It lets you connect spoken words with their written form.
Yeah, but there's a trick. Try watching with subtitles first, then rewatch without them. It forces you to rely more on listening skills.
Great tip. Also, don't get too hung up on understanding every single word. Focus on the overall meaning.
Right. Sometimes people pause when they don't understand one word, but in real conversations, you just keep going.
Exactly. And if you keep practicing, you'll naturally start understanding more and more.
Another thing that helps is listening to different accents. English is spoken in so many ways: British, American, Australian, even regional accents within those.
Oh yes, if you only train your ear to one accent, you might struggle when you hear a different one. Variety is key.
Exactly. You don't need to understand everything perfectly at first, but exposure helps. Over time, your brain adapts.
And let's not forget the power of music. Listening to English songs, reading the lyrics, and even singing along can boost listening skills.
That's true. Music helps with pronunciation, rhythm, and even slang. Plus, it's fun.
Definitely. And when you enjoy the process, learning doesn't feel like a chore.
That's the secret. The more fun you have, the more consistent you'll be.
And speaking of fun, watching movies and TV shows in English is another great way to improve your listening skills.
Oh, for sure. At first, subtitles can help, but eventually, try watching without them. It pushes your brain to focus more on the sounds.
Exactly, and different shows expose you to different speaking styles. A sitcom like Friends has casual, everyday conversation, while a show like Sherlock might have more complex vocabulary.
Right. And if you're into YouTube, there are so many channels dedicated to English learning. Some focus on pronunciation, some on slang, and others on general listening practice.
Podcasts are fantastic, too. You can listen while commuting, cooking, or even exercising. They help you get used to natural speech patterns.
Yes, and don't forget audiobooks. If you find reading challenging, listening to the audiobook while reading along can make a huge difference.
Good point. That way, you improve both listening and reading skills at the same time.
Another thing that really helps is shadowing. Have you ever tried it?
Oh, absolutely. Shadowing is when you listen to a native speaker and try to repeat exactly what they say, as soon as they say it. It's great for pronunciation and fluency.
Exactly. It forces you to pay close attention to how words are pronounced and how sentences flow naturally.
And it helps with intonation, too. English isn't just about the words, it's about how you say them. Native speakers have a rhythm, and shadowing helps you pick that up.
Another great habit is talking to yourself in English. It might feel strange at first, but it really works.
Yes, just narrate what you're doing. Now I'm making coffee, or I need to send an email. It helps train your brain to think in English.
And when you're comfortable, find a speaking partner. Conversations with real people are the best way to improve.
Absolutely. There are language exchange apps where you can talk with native speakers. Or even just practicing with a friend who's also learning can be super helpful.
The key is consistency. A little bit of listening practice every day is much better than cramming all at once.
Exactly. The more you expose yourself to English, the more natural it becomes.
And the best part, you don't have to be perfect. The goal is progress, not perfection.
That's so true. A lot of learners get stuck because they're afraid of making mistakes. But making mistakes is actually a sign that you're learning.
Right. Think about how kids learn a language. They make tons of mistakes, but they don't care. They just keep going, and that's why they improve so fast.
Exactly. If you focus too much on avoiding mistakes, you'll hesitate too much, and that actually slows down your progress.
So, instead of worrying, just speak. Even if you mix up words or use the wrong tense, it's okay. The more you practice, the better you'll get.
And don't forget, learning English should be fun. Find things you enjoy in English, like music, movies, or even funny YouTube videos.
Yes, Learning a language isn't just about studying, it's about using it in your daily life. If you make it enjoyable, you'll stay motivated for the long run.
And before you know it, listening, speaking, and understanding English will feel so much easier.
So, to all of you learning English, don't stress too much about grammar. Don't be afraid of mistakes. And most importantly, have fun with it.
Exactly. Make English a part of your daily life, and you'll improve naturally over time.
We hope this episode has helped you feel more confident in your learning journey.
And remember, every small step you take brings you closer to fluency. Keep going and enjoy the process.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Bye for now. Keep practicing and keep learning.
Bye.
Bye.